Hello, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's pre-match. Liverpool taking on Newcastle in 30 minutes over here. The lineups are out, so we'll talk about that as we keep an eye on the games that are going on right now. Arsenal is still 0-0, about to take a corner 15 minutes in over there. That's kind of like a big game for us. Otherwise, the comedy that's United is going on where Ipswich is winning away. But Sergi is here with us. Sergi, the lineup is out. First of all, what do you make of it? I mean, we have gone strong, but still, I kind of like the. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like seeing Costas out there. Not a huge fan of his, but I do like the fact that we probably don't want to get Robertson to play so many games in a short period of time either.
Yeah, I like it. I didn't think Jota would start, but obviously he must be fit enough to, or he's told Slot that it's fit enough to start. Um, yeah, the Costas one worries me, but what do we do? Play him or someone who's on his last legs? So I think it's the best out of the situation that we have. It's good to see Gakpo back on the bench, so he can come in. Other than that, it's the strongest default team we have, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key was midfield. I was mainly worried about midfield, especially after seeing Soboslai at the end of that game against City. I'm like, are they going to have the energy for this game? I'm assuming, the powers that be have told Slot that, they can give the 90 minutes, or even if it is, that's what I was going to ask you, actually. I mean, you see Jones back on the bench, you see Gakpo there. Do you think it's almost like at this stage, almost like planned substitutions, knowing that they just play the game with a number of games? This is like the very last of those batch over here where, come 60 minutes, Jones comes in, for the midfield, Gakpo comes in for Diaz, who played the entire game and stuff, or Jota, who might not have 90 minutes in him. Maybe we see Nunez come in for Jota and stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Jones has shown that he can't perform for more than 2 games in a row. So Bosley is a lot more durable. But yeah, with what we've seen from Slot, he does. They have planned substitutions. So I think regardless of what the score is or whatever, I think 60, 65 minutes he'll make the transitions and the change. Well, obviously Slot's not there on the bench today, but I think that's the way that they're going to go. It's like I said, I'd rather Szoboszlai start and then come off, and then Szoboszlai come in and try and get the feel of the game, and then So yeah, it's like I say. I mean, I think Jones is on worst enemy in regards to fitness. He really has shown that is another injury-prone player that we have. So it like I say, it's a good team. It's a team I would have gone with, considering, but obviously Szoboszlai falling into the floor like that. Well, it wasn't the best, but I mean, it's more out of the energy spent rather than just injuries.
I mean, here's another thing we were talking about right before we went on air. I mean, this feels like it's kind of like an odd feeling after the weekend. That was the big one. I guess I'm kind of worried about the let off after knowing that they won such a big game kind of a deal. But do you think anything less than a win today, does it wipe off what we did on Sunday? Does it undo the huge win? Or you'll be okay with a draw today, even if it means, Arsenal get a win away and bring it down to 8 points with a game in hand? Or I guess it would be 9 points with a game in hand, unless we lose or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think if Arsenal win and we don't win, it kind of puts us back in that nervous situation again. So yeah,
you're talking about 9 points with a game in hand. That game in hand being Chelsea. So even if they win that one, it's still 6 points with the goal differential. Ultimately 7 points. Does that make you nervous again? Where we almost feel like right now we're almost there. I'm sure it makes you nervous.
I'm always nervous because I don't want it to go to that. I don't want it to go to the Liverpool Arsenal game at Anfield. That's just PTSD of 1989, and I just no. So no, I just want to get this over and done with before we even get to that stage. All we have to do is, like Gordon said at the pre-match, at the morning show, we just have to match what Arsenal do.
Yeah.
If they draw, we can afford to draw. If they win, obviously we have to win. So, but yeah, I wouldn't like to be in that situation where it comes down to that game.
I guess the good thing is, yeah, we'll know. I mean, that game already started, so we will know in terms of, the result of our game as it goes, especially in the second half. We're going to go out to the second half knowing what Arsenal did.
Yeah.
Do you think Slot looks like that at all? I know on paper nobody will say they do, but somebody is going to tell him, they tied, by the way. I mean, if that depends on like how aggressive we are and stuff like that, I don't think it dictates a lot. But do you think he looks at that at all, whether it is substitutions? Maybe he says, you know what? Yeah, even a draw is fine. So like makes the substitution to keep people healthy or whatever the case might be.
I think even if Slot wanted to keep it from the players or whatever, it's the fans would know.
Exactly.
And so regardless of which, the fans, even if Arsenal are winning or whatever, the fans will be that pep in the step that we need. And the fact that we have that point gap is kind of that bit of luxury that we have. It's not like when we went to the last game of the season and we could have won it, and you saw the fans were kind of nervous and they weren't sure what was going on with Villa and Man City, and we got that luxury of that point gap. So I think it's going to be a party atmosphere, and I think the fans are just going to put us over. So yeah, regardless of whether the.
So let me ask you that though: is it a party atmosphere where everybody feels like we won, or is it a party atmosphere where, I don't know, let's say if it does come to the Liverpool Arsenal game, like even if we're up by 3 points, 4 points, whatever, I mean, would it be more of a this is a must win this and finish it off kind of a party, or is it more like a job done kind of party?
Yeah, I think if we win today, I think 99% of fans they might not voice it loudly, but I think 99% of the fans will accept that the league's ours. And I think the only person that won't accept it will be Arteta, because that's just what he's like, and he lives in denial. But yeah, regardless of whatever happens at Arsenal for us today, if we beat Newcastle, I think 99% of the fans will accept, stand. And I think the players will probably accept it stand as well, even though they won't admit it.
I think so, because your next game, by the way, Arsenal just hit the post. Calafiori, who actually is playing on a yellow card right now, that was like some early yellow cards in that game. But yeah, I mean, I think if you win this game, the fact that the next one is Newcastle, and by then I think like they will have played their 2 games, so we'll go back to all games being even kind of thing, have a better picture of it. I think if you're up by even 6 points. I know when we went into this 5-game stretch, we were like 11 out of 15 is ideal. To get that 11, you got to win today. So if you do not, you're at basically 9 out of 15. But I think if you come out of this batch after the Southampton game and you look at, you're up by 6 points with the goal differential of 7 points, even that, I think, would be more than enough, wouldn't it?
It should be.
For you, would it? I mean, you're now talking 10 games to go, 7-point leads, if you will.
Yeah,
I'm trying to gauge how nervous you will be in this game.
Even if you won the league last week and it was done and done, I'd still be nervous about today.
I mean, if you look at the lineup over there, I mean, I know we talked about Costas a little bit. So we're going probably more back to how we normally play. I mean, do you see apart from like fatigue in this lineup?
I think that's the thing. I'm more worried about the fatigue, but then the flip side is Isak's not playing, Joe Linton's not playing, and it just feels like it's too good to be true that everything's going our way. And
yeah, Isak not playing. I could almost make your Arsenal fans saying like they didn't have Haaland, now they don't have Isak, and
Yeah, and that's just it, and that's what makes me nervous. Like things are just too good. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle it. I haven't had these emotions since like COVID days, and
Yeah,
even
I mean,
then, like they tried to null and void the season.
I think you win today, regardless of what Arsenal does in their game.
Yeah,
I would consider it like an 8-point lead, which is ultimately 9 points, like I say, with the goal
it's two
differential.
games. Yeah,
Even if they win their game in hand, I think is plenty. I think I would feel comfortable with that, knowing this team and how we played, and knowing them and how they've played. I mean, they're playing well today, but you can kind of tell. Watching them reminds me of those days where right before we signed Thiago, for example, and we're like, we need somebody to open up these low blocks and stuff like it just like looks like they're doing the same thing over and over again. And I can see, honestly, I think for a team like Arsenal right now, especially knowing Arsenal fans, they probably would rather play away than home, because if this game is home, every misplaced pass or the cross that goes out of bounds and stuff like that is more like rumblings, whereas away from home you don't get that. You can kind of keep going and playing their game, whereas in our case I think there's so much positivity around the team right now that even if you look like you're struggling, like you're saying, Anfield is going to be behind, and United just scored a second one and they're up 2-1 now, beating the mighty Ipswich. But I mean, yeah, does that, you know what I mean? I feel like it's an advantage for us. They would probably rather play away. I think the mood that the team has right now, Sunday was a huge turning point in terms of that mood, as opposed to after that, like Everton and like Wolves games, Villa, people are a bit more nervous. Are we gonna, people like Aaron showing up in the comments saying like, are we gonna bottle and stuff like that? I feel like this game against City was huge in that sense, in terms of kind of sweeping those away and say, okay, like you guys are just being silly.
Yeah, and that's what I said at the pregame at the City game. The performance mattered, and we didn't even really come out of second or third gear. City, City gave everything they could, and it was like, them cartoons you see where the boxer just holds that little guy with his arm, and and they're just like flaying, and that's what it felt like,
Yeah.
and going off the performance from the second half of the Wolves game and then Villa and obviously Everton, we were just nervy. It just felt like we got control back, and obviously we took care of the champions. We can only play the players in front of us, so that's not our fault, But to do it in the manner that we did, all that did was boost us, and it was a way, and it gave us another just that mental kick that So whatever fatigue physically the players might be feeling, like between the fans and us, and the players, it's just everyone's just willing this to happen. And even outside of Liverpool fans, everyone's willing us to win this league, because Arsenal have created so many enemies, other than, Everton fans. Everyone's willing us to just get this over and done with. And good, I know we have 7 home games, including this one left, which is great. But what's also great is that Arsenal have a few more London derbies as well, because Chelsea aren't going to bend over for neither Spurs. So like I say, everything's going our way, and I can't handle that. I can't.
Yeah, it's been tricky. That's why I feel like today kind of almost puts the doubt away. Maybe because your next fixture is Southampton, and I know nothing is won until you win it on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it looks like if you're an Arsenal fan or if you're an Arsenal player, you're not hoping. If you're thinking, if anything, it can get worse over the next 2 games when the games are even, as opposed to like getting better. And like I say, you watch Arsenal. But here's the thing: did we suddenly switch the mood with the City game? Whereas we were kind of like, oh, what's going on? And then you get that game, you get that performance. I guess that's my biggest concern going into this game. Like, was that like almost like too much, where you go out to a game and you give it all and you play ridiculous, well above expectations. I mean, in this Newcastle game, apart from maybe the hangover and the fatigue, what part of Newcastle, I guess, worries you? Normally, you would say Isak, right, and his finishing form and stuff. But what can they do that will make this a tricky fixture?
Gordon and their midfield. Bruno, Tonali, they're still class players.
Yeah.
And Anthony Gordon, he loves to score against us. Gordon versus Trent, that that makes me nervous. So again, and we've said it all season, that midfield is what's gonna will win us all our games. And on paper, look at the players and like you think, oh, compared to previous, but that midfield is just, I don't think there's any other midfield in the league that matches what we have. And I know a lot of people don't see these Liverpool games, but Gravenberch, obviously, he's not the player that we thought that we had last season. He's come leaps and bounds. So Bosley now seems like the player that we were promised, and McAllister's just, he's just class. You can't wax enough lyricals about McAllister. So that midfield is so key to protecting our defense and setting up our attacks. And again, that's what the game's going to be won, I think.
I mean, the biggest advantage, I'm looking at their bench right now. I mean, I have like Lewis Smiley, Harvey Barnes can come off the bench and do something. I don't see like a lot of threats. Whereas I feel like, we do have some players that can kind of change the game if things are not going our way in terms of like coming in and making an impact. The midfield, yeah, I think I would be a lot more worried if Joe Linton is there, just because, his physicality can really impact a game. But it feels like, man, if fatigue does not come into factor, I have a lot more confidence in us being able to control that midfield since Joe Linton is over there. And honestly, the Gordon Trent thing is odd. Nobody bitches more about Trent's defending than I do. But I think like these are times where like I can see Trent taking this a bit more personally and doing better because of that. Because I think not all, but a big part of it is efforts and focus. I almost feel like, this is a game where Trent would be like, I'm not going to let Borden, because they've had so many battles against each other, that he would take it a bit more personally and focus a bit more on defending. And I do think when Trent really wants to defend and focuses on it, he's a lot better of a defender. He's still not the best, because obviously that's not his strength, but I think he's a lot better when he says, I'm going to stop this dude, and makes that his mission, as opposed to, I think he goes out against, like, if he goes out against Ipswich or, like Brentford and stuff like that, he's more focused on the attacking aspect of things, getting the assists and, doing the funky passes and stuff like that. Or am I just like reading too much into it?
Yeah, I think you're reading too much. I don't think Trent has it.
Is it wishful thinking?
I don't think he has the leadership skill. I mean, and I said this before, like, we had Gerrard and Carragher, and, everyone would say that Gerrard's quiet, but he led by example. Carragher was a loud one. But Trent doesn't do either. And, we saw Van Dijk, like, probably play his best game of the season, last week. And it just feels like they've accepted Trent for what he is, that he's going to leave, and we're just going to overcompensate for his, as much as Doku didn't create anything, he still kept beating him, like, pretty easily. And so
he was pushing him outside, by the way.
Yeah. And so, and that's it. And it's like Trent's become the Nunes of the right back. With Nunes, we thought, all right, if you're not scoring, he's working hard. Last 2 games, he hasn't worked hard and got called out for it. So with Trent, all right, if you can't defend, set something up. He's not even doing that. So, yeah, and more to your point, I don't know, you don't want to talk about contracts and everything. It just really feels like, if we're right, and if your theory is right, that Salah and Virgil have signed these contracts, they need to get Trent's bonus, because they have covered for him. And it's like they've kept everything quiet, gone with their business, and they've just taken all, tried to deflect these questions and everything else just to protect Trent's image and reputation. Because Trent, really, even if he said next season, I'm sticking with vice captaincy. He's not a leader. He's just.
I think it almost like takes the the chaos and the conversation and the questions and divide it by 3. So, everybody is getting an equal share of it. So if you are, like out there, the reporters are running to 3 different people and asking the same question, as opposed to if 2 of them sign, now everybody is around Trent saying, hey, what's going to happen? What's going on? I think it's kind of, instead of dividing it by 1 and getting all the attention and the pressure of the contract to 1 player, it kind of like divides into I could be wrong. I mean, this is my theory I've been running with. And I think a lot of people, I'm seeing more and more people saying the same thing now, just by, looking at these guys' demeanors and like how they started to answer the questions slightly differently, without giving too much away, but slightly differently, a lot more cautious, even like Mo, who has been like the most vocal about it and stuff. So I do think, my prediction I made months ago is true, but I mean, it could be a case where, they don't even sign. I just, at this stage, these guys have brought us here with that cloud or whatever. Clearly, it's not a cloud for them. They don't care about it. They go out and play their game. Mo's having his best season, so it's not bothering them at all. It's only bothering fans.
No, it's not. But I think, if that is the case, just, I think if we win today, I don't know it's not going to happen. Just let the world know. Just like Trent, just come out and say you're joining Madrid. You've won now 2 Premier Leagues with us. More than 2 more than Steven
with
Gerrard.
The Champions League and stuff, would they?
Yeah, but just enjoy the rest of the season. Just enjoy it. Just because I think mentally it's affecting you. And just say like, all right, I haven't signed. Let Salah and Virgil, obviously, whatever they're doing. I think Trent will enjoy the last few days of his game more if he got that out in the open. And because we all know, we know he's going. So just admit it and just enjoy it. Just celebrate what you have left, or your days at Liverpool, and it is what it is. I don't begrudge him for wanting to leave. If the money's that good and whatever, so be it. It's.
It seems like if you've kept it quiet till March, you just keep going. What's another 2 months? I mean, if you kind of kept it and said, hey, and why rock the boat if things are going well? And clearly they are. Why rock the boat and even bring up the conversation? Because really, they're never bringing up the conversation. It's being asked.
No, they won't bring it up. Yeah, but I don't think it's rocking the boat. I think we all know. I think I think it's more of a surprise if he turns around and says that he's staying. But it's not really rocking the boat. I just think like, just get it out in the open, and that way no one's questioning you. No one's questioning where your head is at, whatever. Not, we know where your head's at. So just enjoy the rest of the day. That's just my.
Yeah, I think your initial gut feeling of nothing is going to change is right, and I just don't see it. Just focus. And like I say, who cares? I think honestly, like if the lead was not as much as it is, where we're feeling a bit more confident, I almost think like we would talk about it less. People are already worried about next year. Well, dude, let's finish this freaking first year first, and then we'll worry about like next year. Speaking of, as we head on over, get ready for the game. Oh, I thought there was a deflection. I thought Forrest scored for a second. Give me your score prediction for the game. Did it change?
I got no, because Gordon's still there. I got for 3-1.
The Timuchin special. I'm sticking with that today too. I do think we do get that, and hopefully it's not a painful 3-1 because it couldn't go either way. But huge game. I know we say this literally every freaking week, like it feels like, but it's that time of year, right? Every freaking game is huge, and I think with what's going on over there, they're in the 39th minute, still 0-0. But any team can score at any given minute. And time over there looks like, because we know how dangerous Forest is on the counters and stuff like that. But we'll check that out by our halftime. That game will pretty much be over, so we'll know, and then maybe we'll be sitting over here up by 13, 14 points with them having a game with a game in hand or whatever. But who cares? Let's win it.
Yeah,
I think it goes back to what you're saying. If we win, there's nothing they can do to come closer, and that's all that matters with the lead you have right now. But well, we'll be here right after the final whistle, hopefully talking about yet another Liverpool win. So do tune in for that. If you haven't done so already, go like, subscribe, hit all those things. We do have 2 guys at the game right now Barak, and Anan. Hopefully, Anan is not doing his Scouse accents on the sideline. They might beat the crap out of him. He gets away with it over here, but we'll see what happens over there, and then maybe we'll hear from the stadium after the game as well. But enjoy the game, everybody. Up the Reds. Let's get the 3 points.